Hello and welcome back to part 2 of restoring an enormous wooden chair that I have absolutely no use for. Apologies for the erratic nature of the video, but I've been piecing together the random bits that I filmed while working on the chair. In this video I'm going to be doing one of the last components and showing you that in detail so that you understand the process that I have been repeating over and over again for the last several days. So I hope you enjoy that. Let's get on with it. Attempted this kind of repair for the first time yesterday. When I was making this component, I started calling them dog bones. When I chiseled it out from the slab, a piece broke off too much from the sort of underside here. See how we got that triangle shape there? So I stuck this little piece on with some glue, wood fillered around the edge, and it's dried this morning, so we're going to try and reshape it up today.
The next day.
Right, so for the last several days I've just been remaking components. I haven't filmed any of it because, as I said in part 1, so many of the processes are very repetitive. I will, however, show you one in detail so that you get the process. First of all, I've made my templates, but to be honest, I have managed to jigsaw back together the pieces of the old pieces, the old components, so I can just lay it on top of the new slab, line it up where I want it, and then draw around it to get my cut marks, leaving myself a little bit of wiggle room, of course. This slab has a great big knot in it, so we want to avoid that like the plague. That corner of the board bows up that way, so we want to leave that bit out, hence it's going to run along here. We've also got some cracks on the surface here. They don't go all the way through, thankfully, but again, we'll just steer clear of those. The section that I'm going to cut it from is hopefully nice and straight, free of knots, or as free as we can get it, and without cracks as well. So then I just measure the widest point, this one's saying 5 inches, and then we'll rip this down to that width on the sowel. On this one I also took this chunk out just to make my life easier, remove some material. You know, that's a usable piece of material I can now use for something else. So next we start the process of actually carving out the rough shape. I've got my pencil line and I'm going to drill hundreds and hundreds of small holes all the way around the outside along the curvy edges. Then I can come back with a chisel and join them up. Somehow I've not snapped this drill bit. It's the same one I've used for every single component. I'm going to try to keep it as straight as possible. If anything, I can obviously line up with the top line here to then angle it away from the piece, so that if it does go awry, it goes that way and I can just rasp off that piece later on. What else? Also not pushing too hard, again, to save snapping my drill bit. Right, the holes are to guide the split when I get chiselling, to make sure that the split doesn't follow the grain and it follows the holes and follows where I want it to go. And just to help that even more, because especially at the ends where the gaps are bigger and things like that, I like to just run the grinder down both sides of all the holes, just to give it a little bit of an insurance policy, say. I'm also going to take extra care around this almost right angle section on this piece, because there's been nothing like it on any of the other components, and essentially I'm trying to get a split to happen across the grain here, which is potentially going to be difficult, so I might even just run the handsaw down those holes there just to make sure this definitely comes out as we want it, and that we don't have to start again and waste this slab. in because recently I had my first ever noise complaint from the neighbours over that side. I've been doing the chiselling on this side, on the lattice components on Grandma's side, to not disturb anybody. And what I will do is use my chisel, run it along, a couple of taps, working along, joining the holes up, using the angle grinder groove, and I'll go all the way along one line and then flip it over and go from the other side and flip it over, flip it over, flip it over, so that it hopefully nice and evenly just takes off the chunks as they come. Taking it nice and steady to not have any splits go where I don't want them to. Alright, these are very rough shape. Now we're just going to, the majority of the final shaping will be done with the rasp, but I can take some of the bigger chunks off with a much sharper chisel than the one I used to hew the bulk of it off. Alright, I don't want to speak too soon, but touch wood, I must be getting my eye in on this because I've only just followed up to my pencil lines, just removed the pencil, and it's pretty damn close, so there'll be a little bit more out of the crux in there, and I need to saw a teeny bit off the front here. That'll be quicker than trying to rasp that off. I will of course leave a little bit extra length, a little ½ inch extra, just so that I can always trim that bit off when it comes to assembling the chair, rather than have it become too small. But other than that, this one's gone very well. Yeah, not looking for them to be exactly the same size. Don't mind if the whole chair ends up a bit bigger or smaller. That is a big wasp. Buzz off, mate. Buzz off. Right. Yeah, carrying on. Going well.
Basically, whenever it's a vaguely sunny day now, there's always one lone red kite flying around. And always around here as well. Maybe it thinks I'm about to die and it can pick me off like a buzzard. It was right over my head a minute ago.
Okay, now I'm happy with the shape. I could sit here more and take more off and get it closer to the old one, but to be honest, I'm happy with the new one as it is, so I'll put the rasp aside. Can get rid of this for the time being. Hopefully forever, shouldn't need it again. And then we can just use the router to put a little curved edge on all the, well, on everything on this component. Not all of the components needed all of the edges to be smooth, but this one does, so. Just want to show you the front two legs. This one had a bit of a rotten patch here, sort of just like a few layers had gone away, so I used a wire brush just to gouge most of that out, and I've done some homemade filler in that, so that's ready for sanding. Also, these surfaces that the seat sort of sits on both front legs, let's see if I can stand this one up as well, were in pretty poor shape. So I did this one yesterday, made a block, cut out for it, glued it in, and then today I've shaped it, and I've just done the same to this one here. I've also just wedged glue into any of the biggest of the cracks that are in this piece, and that were sort of making me a bit on the fence about whether or not to remake it in its entirety, but I wanted, if possible, to keep these 2, because then that'll mean we've got 3 original components in the chair. So I've just put its block on, and I've, like I said, I've wedged glue into as many cracks as I can, clamped it all up, and it will need to be left overnight now before we can go back to sanding on that. So before I did that, I sanded this one. As you can see, I've removed the factory coating, whatever it is on it, some kind of stain, I think. So that one's getting there also. So the last thing I think I'm going to do today is probably spend about an hour on the sander getting the other components mostly sanded. I'm at that stage now where we're starting to take some pretty significant forward steps towards getting it finished, which is very exciting. So I'm constantly second guessing myself, thinking, have I remembered to do everything? You know, am I going to get to a point and go, oh no, I was supposed to do that before we did this? You know what I mean? So it's trying to still take it very slowly and deliberately so that we don't miss anything and have to undo any of my hard work. Well, that's good. My sander's broken. Sheared off this black stuff, which this plastic has sheared here. There's a bearing there, and I think that plastic is supposed to go around the outside of the bearing. Look, and it sort of goes behind, and it's sheared off. That's cool. Well, one thing's for sure, I'm not doing it all by hand.